T.J. Hooker returns next week at this time. Now a special presentation.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. It's the nation's second longest running comic convention. It's Ithacon, April 27th and 28th at the Campus Center of Ithaca College. Tickets are just $20, $5 for kids 17 and under. Order tickets now at ithacon.org. Featured guests include the legendary Walt and Louise Simonson, DC comic vets Shelley and Philip Bond, Dean Haspiel, Mike Gold, the classic Spider-Man and Superman writer Roger Stern, Megaton Man's Dom Simpson, Star Trek's DS9 J.G. Hertzler, and many more. This year we'll have amazing comic publishers like Ahoy Comics, Dynamite, A Wave Blue World, and SHP. There'll be cosplay contests, panels, kids' activities, and more. Plus, Ithacon is offering swag bags for the first 200 attendees to buy tickets. These overstuffed swag bags offer over $30 value in comics, books, and more. It's Ithacon, April 27th and 28th at the Campus Center of Ithaca College. Order tickets now at ithacon.org. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Sutra's here. We're in the teacher's lounge. And look at that. All right, we've got our coffee ready. Me and Maurice Broaddus, the author of a very cool book that just came out this month. And I'm going to pop up. There it is. There's the cover, everybody.
Here it is.
Black Panther, T'Challa Declassified. Notes, interviews, and files from the Avengers archive. Maurice, welcome. Great to meet you.
No, great. Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So you're a teacher. Where do you teach?
I teach at the Oaks Academy Middle School, and I'm in my classroom, but you can see that I have a bit of a Black Panther shrine behind me, including some art by some of my students, as a matter of fact. Actually, I think all the pieces are by my students, as a matter of fact. So
that's fantastic, man. Very, very cool. And God, well, I have to assume that you're a longtime comic book fan.
Yeah, you could probably make that leap. Yeah, I think when my first comic book, I was in 5th grade, and it was X-Men issue 136, Uncanny X-Men 136. So,
outstanding, man. Who wrote it and who drew it? Do you remember?
It was during the Claremont run. I believe it was John Byrne doing the art, because it was the issue right before the death of Phoenix. So,
oh wow!
That was my first comic book.
All right, I got a couple decades on you, but that's cool, man. That's great. That's fantastic. So, good Lord, and I'm sure your students, and especially, hold on, I want to take down the cover to once again show you that great art you've got behind you. God, I mean, I'm a longtime Black Panther reader. When did you start reading the Panther?
Pretty much, you could probably tell when you read the book. I came in with Christopher Priest, and I'd been a big fan of Christopher Priest long before he was called Christopher Priest. As a matter of fact, I didn't even realize I was collecting the guy almost from the beginning of his career, back when he was Jim Owsley.
Jim Owsley, that's his secret identity. Absolutely, that's no secret.
And so I'd been collecting him even inadvertently the whole time. And then when he did the Black Panther run, oh man, I became obsessed at that point. So obsessed, I went back and started collecting him all the way back. So I even now my collection includes like his first appearance in Fantastic Four and all that kind of stuff. So it became pretty. I became pretty obsessed at that point.
I don't blame you, man. No, it's a great character, and my God, that film so transformative, and it has been truly as just somebody, on the sidelines watching, just the way it ignited excitement for Afrofuturism
Yep.
and that whole movement. I mean, and forgive me, I'm a layman, so I don't know when Afrofuturism prior to that really got ignited. Do you know the kind of?
All right.
I mean, yeah, excellent, man.
Let me dive into my nerd bag again. See, this whole interview, I feel pretty nervous. I'm like, oh man, they're going to reveal me for like this utter nerd. But hopefully, I'm talking to my people, so I shouldn't be too worried.
You are, man. Absolutely, you are. So go on.
All right. So Afrofuturism, the term itself was coined in 1993 by a sociologist named Mark Derry. Okay. And he was basically lamenting the fact that there are only I believe there were like four Black people writing sci-fi at the time. It was like Charles Saunders, Samuel Delany, Octavia Butler, and Stephen Barnes. And so he's just like, why weren't more Black people writing in the area of this, what we're going to call Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
But then as it turns out, it's what we've always been doing. And you can trace the movement all the way back. If we stay just in books, we can trace it all the way back to writers like Martin Delany, who wrote a book, I believe it's like in the 1890s, as well as W.E.B. Du Bois, the civil rights leader.
Wow.
Also, he wrote sci-fi stories on the side.
Holy cow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the work itself goes way back. The term was coined in '93, but it basically popped into pop culture consciousness when the Black Panther movie came out.
Yeah, and my God, I mean, truly, I've seen Afrofuturism conferences and so many things across the country, and hopefully as well, I'm assuming internationally.
Yes.
God, how heartbreaking, man, to lose Chadwick Boseman. Right at the height. Honestly, Maurice, I think, please, and feel free to grab the picture because I see it behind you.
So when he passed, one of my students made this for me because she was like, Mr. Broaddus, I know you feel away. And so she made me this picture to make me feel better after he passed.
I was doing a live show that Friday night when we got the news, and we had to stop and talk about him and his importance. And my God, what an incredible actor to be able to pull off Jackie Robinson, James Brown. I forget the name of the football player from The Express that he played, Ernie. And yeah.
I forget. Yeah, but yes, yeah. And
then and so perfect as T'Challa, and you couldn't have found a better actor. And I'm of two minds because I appreciate in Wakanda Forever that they chose to make that movie the loss of T'Challa and everything. But I also, it's a shame because God, Michael Jordan was so great as Killmonger,
right?
And the guy who plays the White Wolf was terrific as well. Though I mean that cast up and down,
right?
In both films. But I honestly, I'm an old Hollywood buff as well as being a comic book nerd, and I argue with some of my friends. I'm like, Chadwick Boseman is a better example of like a James Dean, because he had a longer film career and I think showed a diversity in these different roles that he played. That I mean, James was a fine actor, but man, no, I really think Chadwick was even more superior, frankly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so I mean, I appreciated Wakanda Forever for what it was. In fact, especially as a communal experience in mourning. I mean, I've never experienced anything like that as a cinematic experience before.
Yeah.
So I'm like, basically 2 for 2 as far as my experiences with those movies. 2 completely different movie experiences, mind you. But I was just like, both were powerful in their own unique ways. But yeah, I would love to have the opportunity to explore more Black Panther stories. In fact, one of the things about working on this book, in fact, working on it at the middle school, was listening to the rumors of the middle schoolers. Because when you're in middle school, I mean, rumors are life. And one of the big rumors was Mr. Broaddus is writing Black Panther 2. And I'm just like, I'm not, but I'm not going to disabuse you of that notion. I'm gonna let you go ahead and run with that one.
That's great. I would imagine. Did you do a big signing at school?
I haven't done one yet. It's just now getting out that I have my new book is out, because they're all like, Mr. Broaddus, don't you have a book out? And I'm like, we will do a thing, But Mr. Broaddus is still on deadline for a couple other projects, so let me get those in my rearview mirror, and then we will do a thing. We will do a thing. I promise you.
Tell me, Maurice. So this isn't your first book. Tell me about your other books.
So I currently have two trilogies out right now. In fact, I'll be turning in book 2 of one of the trilogies in about an hour. About an hour and a half, I should say. I am this close to being done. So I have a trilogy called Astra Black, and that is an Afrofuturist trilogy. And in fact, we pitched it as Black Panther meets The Expanse.
That's great.
So that's the sci-fi trilogy, and then I have a middle grade series. It's a series of middle school detective novels. The first one was called Usual Suspects. The second one was called Unfadable, and then this summer I'll be working on the third one. But that's all. So my students have. So they aren't always looking for my adult books. They're like, here are the books I wrote just for y'all. So it's like Black Panther, this trilogy. We should be good on you finding work by Mr. Broaddus.
That's outstanding. That's fantastic. I just had Sean Martinborough on a couple months ago, and he was telling me about his YA books and everything that he's been working on. And again, another guy I have tremendous respect for, and one of my favorite artists. He really his run on Batman on Detective with Greg Rucka was such an exciting, different visual take on everything. And I'm just like, and it really was when I came. I took the 90s off as far as reading comics, and around 98, 99 is when I came back, and I'm like, holy shit, this is like completely different. Sorry, I know you're at school. I don't want to. Sorry, kid, if you're listening.
The door's closed. Okay. I took off my Mr. Broaddus outfit, so now I'm in my Maurice Broaddus outfit. So they all know. They all know.
But yeah, it was a look on Batman, a design I had never seen before, and I'm a massive fan of Sean's as well. How did you approach Marvel with this idea? How did you get this assignment?
So they approached me. I got an email through my agent one day, and they were like, "Oh, we're looking for a writer for this, this Black Panther book, and we have it narrowed down. You're on our short list. We'd love to have a chance to interview you." And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so they scheduled a Zoom meeting, but they scheduled it for a time when I'm here at school. And so they turn on we all turn on the cameras, and they look at my background art, and they're like, "Oh, well, you must have prepared for this meeting." I'm like, no, this is student art. So we didn't just do this last night. This is student art. So this is who I am, and this my memorabilia above it. Like, this is who I am. And then they were like, "This will probably be a pretty short interview. I'm thinking we found the right person." I'm like, yeah.
Doesn't hurt as right now your head's blocking it, but doesn't hurt having the bust behind you as well. There it is.
Right. Oh yeah, and then my candy dish and my my fan for when I get hot, because why not? So
that's great. So do you and listen, it doesn't just have to be Black characters. What are your other favorite superheroes?
Well, my favorite supervillain. Well, my other favorite heroes. I love Cyborg. I love Falcon.
Sure. I
love Mr. Terrific. My favorite supervillain is Deathstroke, the Terminator, because I am a child of the '80s, and I came in. I probably shouldn't say this, but who cares? The check's already cleared. So I came up as a DC guy.
Me too, man.
Okay. So Teen Titans was my book. Cyborg was my dude. Cyborg and Nightwing were my main two, but then Deathstroke was my love right there. Any appearance Deathstroke was in, I didn't care where he was. I went. I found the Deathstroke books. And so you said you took a pause in the '90s. I took I'm currently in my pause, but I think actually I may be able to get back into comic book collecting, because I quit about 20 years ago. Because I was recently married and my wife was pregnant. Actually, we had just had our second child, and she was just like, you can either keep collecting comic books or you can put food on the table. You can't do both. And I'm like, ooh, all right, let me pray about it. But I ended up putting a pause on the comic book collection. But plus, I think at that point we had hit 20,000 books by that point also.
Wow.
And she's like, your collection is bigger than our house. And I'm like, all right, that is also fair.
It's a familiar story with
right.
with
Exactly.
So yeah, I understand. That's so funny. My buddy owns a comic store in Chicago, and for every Valentine's Day, he has a big promotion of "Honey, I love you," but today it's all about comics. And the it's funny. I don't know if you're aware, because again, being a Christopher Priest Black Panther fan, he just wrapped up a nice lengthy run on Deathstroke, and it's a fantastic story.
I did hear rumors about that. That's why I literally what you saw in that pause was me going, I bet I can go back and get that run now, because we're officially empty nesters now. As of this past October, we're empty nesters. So I'm just like, I think I might have room in the budget to be able to go back and start collecting comic books again.
Priest is killing it. He also did, and I just talked to him a couple months ago as well. He did a great 9-part or 10-part Superman story called Superman Lost, where he gets flung to the other side of the galaxy, and he still has his powers, but literally, even with his powers, it would take him like 40 years under normal circumstances to come back.
Right.
And it's just this long journey from deep space, the isolation that he's feeling, all of it. And it's a fantastic story. And I'm really happy because I know Priest for a long time. Writers are happy to write, obviously, characters like, they're characters that represent themselves. And obviously had a great run on things like Panther. But no, I'm glad DC has given them the opportunity, first with Deathstroke and then the Superman miniseries. And it's like, no, he even wrote Vampirella recently for Dynamite. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm really glad, because listen, man, the whole stay in your own lane thing, it's like writers should be allowed to, use their imagination,
Exactly. So I was told. So when I started my career, I started as a horror writer.
Wow.
And so there was that whole encouragement of like, well, you got to pick one genre and just stay in that for your entire career, and that's how you build your name. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Or here's what I'm gonna do. And so I've just been writing any story that comes to my mind, comes to my heart. Any of the stories I wish I could have read when I was growing up. And I'm just like, no, I'm gonna write as much as I can, as diverse as I can, because I just love stories. So why limit myself?
What I love about this book, and I'll even show some pages from the interior, but it really is formatted like, just like it says, that we're reading secret files that have been accumulated, not just people like Henry Gritch, and I always forget the Martin Freeman character from the movie, but a long time, the intelligence liaison.
Daggone, because he was a Christopher Priest creation.
Yes. Not
his name.
3 names, and maybe somebody in the chat knows, because we got a nice group of people watching right now.
Oh, good. But Everett K. Ross.
Everett K. Ross, absolutely, man. So you get their impressions, but you also get great notes from Shuri, his mother, Killmonger, all these great characters and stuff. Yeah. Now, for the book, because obviously in the movie, for now, unless they recast in the future, T'Challa is dead. Is it, as far as the narrative of the book, are we treating this as everyone is giving their observations of T'Challa as a character that's alive, or as a former, a character that's fallen?
The answer to that is yes. So I'll back up a little bit. So when they asked me to write the book, their original intention was for me to tell the story of the character, and then so we'd hear from the character in their own voice through all this found media, be it the Shield files or magazine articles, newspaper articles, diary entries, whatever. So we'd hear from the character in their own voice. But like I said, I'm a Christopher Priest fan, and one of the big things about his run is you are rarely, if ever, in Black Panther's head. And that's how he's able to maintain this mystique and everything. So I wanted to write from that sort of angle. It's like, you don't hear from him directly in his own voice. You hear from the voices of the people whose lives he just passes through. Just him passing through their lives is going to have a huge impact on them. And what does that look like? And so that's the lens through which I wrote the book. And at first they weren't certain about that approach, but then they started getting the pages. And they were just like, okay, Okay, we see what strange magic you're doing. Go ahead, keep that up. Keep that up. So I'm like, okay, good. I was nervous about it, but I was just like, I really think I'm onto something with this.
So, that's great because I wasn't sure if it was their notion to
Mhm.
make it like a dossier or if it was yours, and that's terrific. Here's a couple of pages right away, and here, in
Yeah,
fact, from every K. Ross. Here we go,
yeah,
and you could. This is great, and I always love books that are formatted like this.
yeah.
That yeah, that it does feel like you're reading something that you shouldn't be reading,
Right,
and
right.
so that's absolutely
Man,
terrific.
when I got the first pages of the actual design, because when I'm writing it, I just got a typical 8.5 by 11 script and page in front of me of a block of text. But then I started getting the pages back, and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. This is going to be so beautiful. And yeah, and so then it just became this dance between me and my editor, because she was just like, oh no, go ahead and do different formats. We got you. Whatever you come up with, we got you. And
Yeah, we get like with Shuri, it's more of a kind of a handwritten interview sort of
mhm,
thing, and there are passages in the book that look like it's handwriting rather
yep,
than a government document and
yep.
everything. No, it absolutely works. Did you ever talk to the person that designed the look of the pages and stuff?
No, I went through I went through the managing editor, the one who was overseeing both of us. And so, but they were just like, they were having so much fun designing the book. They were just like, yeah, whatever you come up with, they are having a ball doing this stuff. So I'm like, okay, we're all in.
Any no's in the period of discussing what you wanted to do with Marvel?
There weren't too many no's, because so to answer the rest of your question, uh, about whether the character was alive or dead, they told me stick to comic book continuity. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
He dies an awful lot in the comic books too.
He
So,
absolutely does.
so then it became, how do I tell this story that covers all these different aspects of T'Challa's life and death and life again and exile and and all kind of stuff. So I created this overall arc, but then sometimes because like I said, I'm doing Christopher Priest is my base run, and Ta-Nehisi Coates is probably my secondary run. But I'm reading all of them. So I'm Reginald Hudlin, Don McGregor, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I'm reading all of it and fitting it all in. So trying to dance around all the different retcons, for example, I'm
Sure.
like, okay, but I really want to tell this story. So then when I turn in everything, they're like, all right, we have notes. So they send back notes about, you said this, but where'd you get this from? And I'm just like, well, again, if we want to do this, in Black Panther Volume 3, Issue 8, page 23, I'm doing all these kind of note backs. They're like, no, I'm pulling all of this from comic book continuity. And so they were like, oh, you know what? Just send us all your notes. Just send us all your notes. So we'll just go from there. Because they knew they were dealing with a real one. It's like, no, I got you. Yeah, so.
That's great, man. No, that's fantastic. And again, reading what I read and everything, I've read about half the book, and
Okay.
I really appreciate how the format is, and you putting yourself in these characters.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm reading these characters, man. That's Henry Gritch. That's Everett Ross. That's Shuri. That's
Oh,
that's his mother. Everybody. No,
it
and
was.
it is.
There was. So I did a review of the first mission that Fantastic Four did to Wakanda, and I did it through the voice of Ben Grimm, and I turned that in, and then my editor comes back with, "Yeah, we're going to need you to come up with another excuse to do a Fantastic Four file review because we love you doing Ben Grimm, so do another Ben Grimm thing." So
Wow.
like, okay, I got you.
Again, and you and I grew up when Ben was not only a great member of the Four, but also a great solo
Right.
book. That Thing book was one of my and Marvel 2-in-1. Oh
Yep.
my God,
Yep.
that was great stuff, man.
Man, you're
100%.
taking me back. You're taking me back. Those were
Man.
my active collecting days. I was actively collecting those.
I'm used to talking to people that grew up in the 90s and 2000s, and it's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about,
No,
and it's like,
so,
all right, no worries, it's cool,
so
it's
it's
all
funny.
fun.
I was just I busted some of my students earlier today, because I saw them selling candy in the hallways. And I'm like, what am I witnessing right now? And they're like, nothing. And I'm like, no, I know exactly what I'm looking at, because this is what I did in middle school, and this is how I funded my comic book collection. and I literally funded my comic book collection by selling candy at the middle school. And that's how I began. And so then, so that meant after school, I could walk down to the drugstore and go through the spin racks and just start pulling off. And by this point, I'm making so much money selling candy. I buy every Marvel DC and DC title every week. Just buy them all.
That's fantastic. Oh yeah. Well, and again, back then on a kid's budget, you could do it. That's the
Right.
one thing, Maurice, that bums me out. I understand that paper costs and you got to pay the talent a fair wage and all of that. But it is a shame because of all the different entertainment options that kids have now compared to when we were kids.
Right.
It's a different world. Now, they thankfully, because of the films and the television shows, they can still get exposed to the characters. Right. And hell, I mean, I remember watching in reruns the Ralph Bakshi 67 Spider-Man cartoon, and even those clunky Marvel superheroes cartoons and stuff. Hey, I loved them, and that was great. But again, I could plunk down. I mean, God, my 50-cent allowance let me buy 2 20-cent comics back in the early 70s.
Right.
Different world now. I mean, I feel for them, and it's weird. So teaching middle school kids, I'm sure they're well aware of the Marvel universe and the DC universe, but like, how many of them are comic book readers?
So that's the thing. While they are aware of the universes, but when it comes to they're all manga readers.
Good. Well, that's great.
Oh my god. So I'm also the school librarian, and so
wow.
So I'm like literally I'm looking around going, oh, the stacks and stacks of manga that we get in every week. I'm just like, whoo, and they are fiends. They are fiends for that stuff. And so my heart's actually encouraged because they come in, they have these stacks and stacks. Demon Slayer seems to be one of the big ones right now. Demon Slayer, I can't remember there's like 3 or 4 big titles that's just going through the school like a brush fire right now. Mind you, this private Christian middle school, and I get to deliver Demon Slayer to all the students. So
Well, I mean, and that is impressive, and that already answers my question because truly, there we go. Time. All right, time for Jen. All right, gee.
Yep, there we go.
I honestly, I was wondering, not only the fact that you teach at a Christian school, but also just in general, how receptive school libraries are, because I'm glad that public libraries certainly get it and are not only carrying manga, but are also carrying regular graphic novels from DC, Marvel, all the other publishers. So your school is like, they're okay with a healthy graphic novel section in the library.
It's been a conversation.
Sure.
It's been a conversation.
Sure.
But then also, since I'm the librarian, I get to order what I want, and then I just, then we'll deal with the repercussions later. But I'm like, these are the books the kids are reading, and frankly, I want to stoke a love of reading, and we can still discuss the books. So we can discuss the idea of the books, because Lord knows they keep trying to convert. So I will admit this, at the risk of losing my geek card, but I don't read manga. I just don't. I just don't. Now, I will let the kids try to convert me. So we are always having those. Oh, that's right. That's what it was. I was like, I knew I was forgetting something. How could I forget One Piece? So anyway.
Sure. Well, but that's great because then they're coming to you and you can have a dialogue about what they're reading. Listen, my viewers and listeners are tired of this story, but I will tell you, my youngest nephew had some trouble, wasn't getting into reading, and his dad was a big jock, and both my nephews were into sports and stuff. So I started giving him Teen Titans Go and other kind of comics like that.
Yep.
And the dad at first was like, listen, I don't want to offend you, but the kids are really more jocks. And I'm like, well, I don't want to offend you, but he's reading these things. And isn't it important to just get him reading? And he took a pause and he goes, I'm really sorry. You're absolutely right. And he goes, I get it. And I'm like, hey, man, it's cool. I understand. There is, because he's a little older than me. And I go, there is a perceived stigma. This is before the Marvel movies really took off. Exactly. I'm like, but again, and truly, my parents were like that too. As long as he's reading, that's all we care about. And that's.
Yeah, I was thinking back because I used to do a literacy program here in town, both for. In fact, it's funny 'cause I did it both for um, elementary school kids, but then I had a separate one for unhoused men who just the school system had failed them, and so we're like, all right, let's go through and we'll do literacy
Sure.
training together. But the big book, my main tool for all of that was Peter David's run on the Incredible Hulk.
Outstanding.
And that was I could people would just light up for those books, and so I was just like, oh no, it's like, hey, I'll use Peter David's books every day of the week, and we got plenty of material. What was that, a 12-year run? So it's like,
yeah,
we got plenty of material. We're good.
I was doing an episode last night, and we were discussing. My buddy Cully Hamner drew a recent Peter David wrote it, a recent Joe Fixit miniseries. Where the Hulk became Joe Fixit again, and he was in Vegas, and it was Spider-Man was dealing with it, and it was fantastic. And I mean, so many great stories in the Peter David run. But my God, Joe Fixit was just like, what a brilliant idea, man!
I love that character.
Absolutely, too funny. Jeez. Would you want to? And well, it's early because now the book just came out. Have you done any signing events, or I mean, how many interviews have you done? Am I one of your first interviews?
You are the first interview.
Oh wow, I'm honored. Thank you.
Now, don't get me wrong, I got the rest of my weekend is shot. I mean, it's all interviews all weekend, but that's fine. You are my first. So.
Oh, it means a lot, man. Thank you. That's cool, and I appreciate the PR person Kelly being patient with me because all of a sudden, when I was trying to figure out to schedule you, all of a sudden, like the whole who created Wolverine controversy broke. And I'm like, well, I got to cover that, man.
Right.
But no, again, I'm very honored. That's terrific. I certainly hope this is the first of other declassified things that you could do, because I really think first of all, I think the format is just terrific and people are really going to enjoy it and feel like they're immersed in the 616 Marvel universe. So that's great. But are you, and again, you said you've got some other book things that are happening right now, but are you thinking about other books in this format for Marvel or DC for that matter?
My dream is that, all right, so we've tried this format, but I mean, if you want to let me try my hand at the actual comics themselves, I would not be opposed. I'll just let me put that out into the universe. I would not be opposed.
Well, this is truly, man. I mean, this is, Brad Meltzer before they let him do Green Arrow, or I said, however Bob Schreck found him, Brad would subtly in his government suspense books would put in characters named after comic book characters and stuff.
Oh, nice.
And so you just and it was great timing because it came after Kevin Smith doing Green Arrow, and nobody wanted to. Everyone's like, well, I don't want to follow Kevin Smith. I'm screwed. And sometimes it is in that period when some of the other A-list writers would be like, I don't want to take a chance at this. And there we go.
Here we go.
It's over, everybody. Now it's time for biology.
Right. That was the ending bell. That the school day is officially done. So.
Oh my!
We are free.
Even better. Do you guys blare Alex Cooper "School's Out" every day?
No, we don't. Oh, you know what? They will do. They're gonna do an announcement in about 5 minutes where they dismiss the walkers. And if I'm usually not here this late in the afternoon, but here's the thing: the person doing the announcements is my oldest son because he now works here at the school. So it's like, okay. So,
well, hopefully we're still talking. I'm sure we will be, and that'll be great. Listen, if we got a healthy group of people currently watching, so if people have questions for Maurice about the Panther or his other books, obviously you're welcome to ask questions. But no, this is really great, and truly, I don't mind the bells, I don't mind the buzzers, I don't mind the PA. It's audio verte, like cinema verte. That's real life, man.
Perfect.
So that's really cool. That's terrific. God, so yeah, man, it would be great to see you write Panther. Any interest in some of the others? Luke Cage or
oh man, I could. Luke Cage is tricky. Well, only tricky because I'm also a big Brian Michael Bendis fan. So So I always think of him when I think of these things. But I would love to try my hand at any of those characters. Actually, I could play. I was actually thinking about this earlier today. It's like when the A-list characters write off, I'd like to play around with like a character that's off the radar a bit. That way I could like really dive deep and do some things in it that I don't have to deal with a lot of continuity and those sort of issues. And then just try my hand at like building out the mythology around that character and play and build out a lot in that world. Cause world building and dialogue are my two favorite things to do, which made this book perfect. So
yeah, that's amazing.
So that's the play. That's the dream. If get those, find an off the radar type character, and then let me just run amok with them.
I can appreciate that. Well, and also not only a C or D level character, because you're right. God, I just finished reading Tom King and Greg Smallwood did The Human Target at DC. Oh, did a great 12-part story. And yeah, there's a character you really don't know a ton about necessarily, and you could really graft on more information on it. But I would love to see, and I don't know what the direction of the Captain America New Order movie is going to be with Sam Wilson taking over the Shield and everything. But I could easily see a declassified of I'm sure the government has, sadly, tons of files.
Tons of files.
On Sam Wilson.
Although I did, so before I wrote this book, so I'm also a big short story writer. And so I had written a Black Panther short story before, and it was in the Black Panther Tales of Wakanda anthology. So I had a story in that, but they got a follow-up anthology that is Sam Wilson, Captain America, and I have a story in that one too. So.
Wow, that's cool. All right, without spoiling, can you tell us any description, or also if you're in an NDA, I don't want to mess you up.
Yeah. I'll just leave that. The book is coming out, and I can't wait to see what the stories are in there. But it was but just being able to write these characters at all, much less, I've had like three cracks at the bat, short stories and now a book, and I'm just like, man, I cannot imagine trying to convince 10-year-old Maurice Broaddus that, oh no, keep doing the thing because you're going to be writing for Marvel. You're going to be writing some of your favorite characters. It's like, I couldn't even imagine trying to explain to them my life right now. Yep, there we go. There we go, kids. And here we
At this time, boys JV baseball may be released to the cafe. Boys JV baseball may be released to the cafe. And now walkers are released.
That's my boy.
Excellent, man. That's fantastic. Hey, listen, I'm an old radio guy. He did very good. That was wonderful. Beautiful. That's excellent. Jeez. I was at last year's American Library Association Expo. They had it in Chicago. And it was the second conference like that I went to. And it is so great to see that beyond the comics and the graphic novels, that there are so many prose books that feature, the Marvel and DC characters as they do. So that's great. I'm glad you got a toe in there. And yeah, man, God, that would be amazing if you get a chance to. And regardless, hey, when the Sam Wilson book is ready, you got to come back and talk about that, right?
I suppose. Work. All right.
Well, Kelly has my email, and make sure, and I'll ask her to give me yours. But no, man, please, you got to come back and then do more of this.
Oh, yeah,
that'd be terrific.
Absolutely.
No, congratulations, Maurice. Truly, it's a fantastic book. It's available now, everybody, at your local shops or at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can order this Black Panther T'Challa Declassified, notes, interviews, and files from the Avengers archive. And every Panther fan is going to want this. I think you did a hell of a job. So congratulations on that. Continued success with your other novel and short story endeavors, and of course teaching as well. Hey man, you're doing the tough job. You're getting the kids to read. So that truly, man, I really appreciate that. Even though I'm Uncle Buck and have no children, no, it's the kids need to know. The kids need to know not only just from a literacy standpoint, but the way that our imaginations get ignited by great storytelling. Yes. So I'm glad you're both doing that on the page and in school and everything. That's terrific.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Well, and thank you for talking today. Please come back. Like I said, especially. All right. That's not good.
I absolutely will.
That's wonderful, man. And good luck with the other podcasts. I hope they inspire good conversation with you.
Right.
That would be great.
Okay.
All right, Maurice Broaddus, everybody, and his
Thank you,
wonderful
everybody.
Black Panther book. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, everybody. Next week is C2E2, the Chicago Comic-Con, but I'm front-loading the week with a lot of great interviews. I'm going to talk to my buddy Steve Bryan on Monday, and also the great Sanford Green of Bitterroot and many wonderful Marvel and DC books as well.
Yeah.
And Jason Aaron is going to join me on Wednesday. So
Okay.
pretty good guest list. That's all coming up next week, everybody.
Not too bad.
So until then, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.